Are there fluids that should be replaced periodically entirely, Frank, on a vehicle?
Um, you've got your engine oil, you've got your transmission oil, you've got your brake fluid, your cooling system. Just about all the fluids at some time must be replaced. Transmissions, um, I may be controversial on this, but I don't care. There's companies that make machines that hook up to the transmission hoses that kind of just recirculate the old fluid out and put new fluid in. That's nice. I think a professional shop wants to remove the transmission oil pan and perform an inspection. If there's metal debris or metal shavings in a transmission oil pan, that's an indication that the transmission is on its way out. And I think that's very important information for people to have to make a repair decision. A lot of the quick lubes offer these very quick fluid exchanges or fluid flushes, and they have to use these kinds of machines because they don't have the skill level necessary to remove the pan and perform an inspection. Um,
Why do you remove that pan?
to look inside it and see exactly what's going on. It's kind of like looking inside the transmission to get a good gauge for the life of the transmission. We had a car here a couple of weeks ago, that exact scenario. The guy said, I just had the fluid flushed. Well, you're having a transmission problem, so we need to remove the pan and inspect. And he was a little taken back. He goes, well, I just had it flushed. We pulled the pan out, and there was actually bearing material in the bottom of the oil pan. So the fluid flushing never took care of that. Fluid flushing never gets the filter changed. So it's just not a good service for the transmission. So get the pans off and get them inspected properly. Some transmissions and the manufacturer will say, and I'm talking about the car manufacturer, will say lifetime fluid fill. But the transmission manufacturer says, yeah, maybe at 39,000 miles, I'd like to see you change the transmission fluid. So you want to know that information. ZF is a transmission manufacturer that sells their transmissions to, BMW, Jaguar, and a lot of other vehicles. ZF says, no, you should change the transmission fluid. Some cars it's 39, some it's 50, some it's 75,000. And BMW will say, nope, lifetime fill, never touch it. Well, it's the lifetime of the transmission that fill is good for. We recommend extending the life of that transmission by doing those fluid changes. So it's important to have all the information.
How do you know if a shop is going to remove the pan and take all those extra steps? I mean, if I call one and just say, yeah, I'm at 40,000 miles, I need to get a transmission flush or replaced, and they just say, okay, we'll do it. I mean, how do I know if they're removing that pan or
Uh,
not?
if they're removing it, they should be telling you right up front, because it's probably going to be a little more expensive to remove that pan than it is just to hook up a machine for 15 minutes. So that would be an indicator. And they should be explaining, uh, when you're calling in and saying, okay, this is what I want done in a car. Actually, the first thing they should say is why.
Okay.
Because a lot of times people are self-diagnosing their cars. Their diagnosis by Google, and which is dangerous. Um, Ask anybody who's been medically misdiagnosed, because Google told me, all I had to do was drink herbal tea, and they've got stage 4 cancer or whatever. So you have to be very careful. A lot of people diagnosed by Google, and I said, well, I was looking up on the internet, and it says, a couple of guys said I should replace my spark plugs. Okay, well, I think we need to run a few tests or whatever the case may be, and make sure that's what you need. So that's very important to ask those questions, and a good shop will volunteer that information. They'll say, well, why do you think you need that? Or they'll say, if you did call and say, hey, it's time for me to get my transmission done, they should immediately start to explain what's involved in doing that for you, so you understand why it costs what it does.
Okay. Now, Frank, what are the possible consequences of not taking that extra step? Things like removing the pan when replacing the transmission fluid. I mean, what are some things that could happen if that isn't done, and you just say, I'm just going to go with my coupon transmission flush place?
Yeah, you're going to think you're doing the right thing, and as that filter gets dirty from normal wear on a transmission, um, it could cause premature transmission failure. So you may think you're doing a proper service, but you're actually going to end up with a very expensive transmission repair that perhaps could have been avoided. Or we will see that metal or that debris in the pan, and you would have saved the money from doing a service that was completely and utterly necessary, because you do need more work on a transmission than just flushing the fluid.